would you like something to drink?
She opened the fridge.
We have water, milk, juice, spiders, Dr. Pepper.
Spiders?
Spiders it is then.
No, that wasn't. But she was already pouring him a brimming glass of spiders.
Ah, animals, whether they are making your pawns feel loved, becoming your next meal, or in some cases making a meal out of your pawns. Out on the rim, animals are some of the most important things out there. So today, we are going to be talking about all the animals and which ones are the most useful and which ones are better used for your kibble, or for your actually good animals. Longtime viewers might remember us doing this in the past, however this was literal years ago and we got new animals and even changes, hence the need to remake and make a far better tier list. So before we begin, a couple of things. One, the list is going to be S to F tier. S tier being always useful in colonies, with F existing to be used as food. We are ranking animals based on how useful they are to you, you animals who can defend pawns or provide resources obviously more useful than an animal who walks around and eats your food not paying the rent. So 3, we are ranking animals on their own no sentience catalyst, which if you don't know was added in Odyssey. Using it on an animal reduces their wildness, reduces handleability levels, needing to control them, and finally ups their trainability a level. So animals who can only attack now can also haul. If we included this, then every animal theoretically has value as attackers and guards for your pawns. Anyway, enough preamble. Sit back, relax, pet your real life animals if you got them, while we discuss the animal tier list as of the DLC Odyssey. Starting first, we have F-tier animals. These are ones whose only purpose is to be hunted or to be a frustration for your pawns in the case of a few of them. Some, like the wolverines, emu, cassowaries, and ostrich, exist only to get angry when they are hit once in Manhunter. Heck, emus have a 100% Manhunter chance on a failed tame. And I know what you might think. What about eggs? Not worth it. Emu, ostrich, and cassowary only lay one egg every 3-ish days and only if fertilized. So you aren't making a lot of return for feeding and raising them. Given their temperament, unable to be trained, major F tier. Wolverines are also unable to be trained, but given how they are IRL, might not be the best thing to have your handlers mess with. Cobras and monitor lizards are also like them, unable to be trained for combat, and even then you don't even want that. Their bites cause toxic buildup, and thanks to toxic buildup, there is a chance to just rot anything they damage and help with killing. It's more of a nuisance to have them out in the wild, especially because they can hunt your colonists or animals. There is also waste rats in the same vein as them, who, while they can be trained to guard, aren't worth the effort since they have a far higher revenge chance for being damaged and even a handler failing to tame them when compared to the more common rat. And like the cobras and monitor lizards, they cause toxic buildup in the things they damage while their bite, adding a more potential rot. Oh, and on the subject of waste and rot, do not even think about the toxalope. I know what you are thinking. Chem fuel. Nope, just disappointment. They not only explode in an explosion of toxic gas, they also don't provide chem fuel. Sure, emergency food, but the fact that they cause more damage than they are worth, just This is also true for boom rats. These little guys exist to basically ruin your day, as unlike boomlopes who have value for their chem fuel, these guys can't be milked nor trained for combat. Even if you had sentience catalysts for a bunch of them to train for attacking, their explosive tendencies mean you are wasting time and money for them. Only use you can get from them is taking a bunch and launching them into a drop pod into the middle of a siege, just acting like a walking IEDs. Even then, it's a very niche use to F tier. Oh, and porcupines. They are so annoying. Not only are they not worth much meat and leather, they have an extremely annoying effect. You see, when you are attacked by a porcupine, they leave needles in body parts they hit. They will also leave needles in your pawns if they melee them or butcher them. That's right, they leave a nice little painful gift for your pawns. The good news, it only causes pain and can be easily removed with a medical procedure. Only other use for them is giving pawns who love pain, be it masochism or an ideology of minor pain, that also gives a mood buff. Aside from that, avoid the danger rodent, even if they are cute IRL. Next up, the alpha beaver. Do I even need to explain why this menace is F tier? Despite what the game says about them, no, they cannot be trained to harvest trees. Instead, they will devour any and all trees in the neighborhood, including the anima tree. At least Thrumbo respects the anima tree and its scream. Next are the animals that just have a way too many better choices. Hippos, alligators, walrus, badgers, and moose are all non-trainable animals that otherwise would be decent fighters, especially hippos, because that ain't fat, that's muscle. if you didn't know, and they can and will outrun you. Shame to bout all 5 of them, cause I wouldn't want to get into fights with them. But hey, decent piles of angry meat, well, the badger gets in that group on Moxie. Now the penguin. Technically, it does have a unique trait in how it can fish on their own, but that's about it. Beyond fertilized egg laying, if you are out in the cold ice sheets or glacial areas, you might not have enough food to actually take care of penguins. Just hunt them and hold out hope for a better egg-laying animal from a trader, or just recreate the Donner Party. Finally, the last animals whose only real purpose is just to be hunted and give pawn shooting experience. Rapid fire, we got hares, in both regular and snow. Used to be they could nuzzle, but not anymore. Now they are small piles of meat. Ibex, gazelle, deer, squirrels, and iguana are all local wildlife in their regions who exist to be eaten by predators. Then there are the animals that exist to make the world feel more alive, but that's about it. Stuff like hermit and stone crabs, sea turtles for the beaches, and prairie dogs and armadillos for the grasslands, the mini bullfrog for those swamplands. There is even lava snails, which actually are a real thing IRL, complete with iron shells. Sadly, these ones don't give bits of steel when butchered, though they do eat far less than they provide breeding-wise. So technically, it can be a farm animal, albeit slow. The raccoon, which does have a very niche use in their forage training ability, just tell them to forage on fertile ground, and you might get some berries. Yeah, not exactly the most useful thing for this little bandit. Finally, hate to do this to a bro, but the capybara. Yeah, it really doesn't do anything beyond chilling, but out on the rim, that's not always enough. Sorry guys. Now for D tier. These animals have minimum use for a colony, but there are far better choices out there. Starting off, foxes in Arctic, red, and fennec variety, all 3 sharing extremely similar stats spreads. They are bottom of the barrel combat animals, but given they don't eat too much and their bites technically can stun, you could use them for early colony training or guard animals and eventually move up the better animals. Though IRL, you really don't want to have a pet fox. Yeah, if I heard that at 2 a.m., I'd be freaking out, not gonna lie. So next, the macaw. Now IRL, parrots are really awesome, but here in Rimworld, well, they are advanced intelligence, but sadly they can't haul. Just defend and attack, but that's the problem. Birds in Rimworld have the advantage of flight, and the macaw is no exception. However, birds aren't exactly the most tanky. And while birds can have value as they lay eggs and continue their species for butchering, macaws take 8 days to lay 1 fertilized egg and around 38 days to fully mature. Gonna have to say, not impressed though. Birds being fast attackers means, well, you got something, but maybe get something better. Unless you are playing a pirate run, the S tier for obvious reasons. Next up, the hoghound and a great wolf. The great wolf is, well, a great wolf, a good generalist type of canine if you can get it. Able to learn, haul, and rescue, the boghound is a combat-only angry canine from the Scarlands with a pretty nasty bite. So why D tier? Well, they aren't as good as other more readily available animals. Bears, wolves, and wargs are far more common and might be easier to tame. They aren't bad per se, but they are here due to being not as good as they can be. There is also the matter of the great wolf's diet. Eating 0.64 nutrients a day, you will need a lot of corpses or kibble to feed this doggy. Otters are another type of, yeah, can use, but why bother type of animal. They can be trained to fight and defend, but stuff like foxes are a bit better. But what really hurts is that tortoise, a tanky guy who would be a great defender if you could actually train them normally, so if you can't train them, why D tier? They're valued nutrition-wise. They eat so little, it actually is somewhat viable to have a turtle farm for their meat and leather, though there are better animals for that. If you don't mind keeping a pawn on handling duty to keep them tamed, you might have a decent food farm out of them. Now, to clear up a misconception about tortoises, they aren't actually good combatants. The reason many wild predators die to tortoises in the wild is due to their attacks hitting their above average armor and just not getting through. In turn, the tortoise kills them through the death of 1,000 cuts. If our shelled friend loses, you won't see the corpse as it usually is fully eaten. On the subject for farm animals, muskox and pigs are another 2 on D tier. Now, muskox Muskox are a decent wool-providing pen animal. The problem is that unlike other ones that are better for this job, muskox, and found in the tundra and the glacial plains biome, very cold regions, so there are more rare and harder to use. In those regions, it's a good animal, but there are better choices. Consider this a super close to C-tier type animal. Pigs, meanwhile, actually when you compare them to their wild boar cousins, are actually less efficient food-wise than they look, requiring a lot of greens to feed. The meat they get in return actually barely beats out what you put in. A pig, however, is an omnivore, so you would feed them corpses, go full mafia, and let the long pork become proper pork. But at that point, you might as well get the more common boars that can be found in the wild pigs, as pigs are a trade-only farm animal unless you get lucky with an animal joins event. They aren't bad, all things considered. It's the rarity and better and more common cousin you can get that hurts a pig's viability. Next up, the mink. Minks are a particularly good animal in terms of meat, but their fur is decent. Being bad in terms of its stats except for beauty and value, setting up a mink farm for tradable furs could be a profitable, but like I said before, better animals. Then the last two rodents here, the megavole and rat itself. The megavole, which is, if you ask me, looks like a Fallout 3 mole rat, is a glow forest exclusive that can be tamed for attacking and also digging. Yeah, if you train them to dig a tuna, they will dig away at any marked tile when they aren't sleeping and eating. Though keep in mind, it's at the level of an 8-skill pawn, so the viability in the end game is pretty low. Still early to mid game, it's not a bad deal. Now, rats aren't a very good animal. They can't be trained to fight, and they breed like, well, rats. But that's also their benefits. They can be easily tamed, and with a low wildness, can be kept in the colony. As many YouTubers like to do, keeping a corpse stockpile in the same room as the rats is usually a good combo. You could also use rats in a combative sense by setting up areas for them to roam, like say a choke point or where raiders are milling. It's not very effective, but to be honest, a swarm of rats can still cause some damage and give you the support your pawns might need. It's a bit of a meme animal, but with some uses, but it's not S tier as some might lead you to believe. Finally, in D tier, the insects, because despite the fact they're basically hostile, they can actually be tamed. Granted, it requires a lot of work and luck to actually get insectoids that aren't initially hostile. The easiest way to find neutral insects, ancient dangers, caskets. If you are lucky, mega scarabs or locusts will be in the caskets. These insects can be tamed by handlers, and as far their value, they aren't completely useless. Locusts can be trained to forage, and they eat less than they usually forage, so you technically come out with a plus. And mega scarabs do have a bit of armor, so for defending jobs, not a bad deal. If you want more, try deserts. They can spawn in there, naturally not linked to a hive. So what about the other three big main bugs? Well, the only way to tame them is so first knock them down when they appear, be it from hives or a dug too deep infestation. From there, destroy the hive. That's what usually linked them to being hostile. From there, I hope your handlers can tame them, or do a doctor rescue to try and form bonds. Now, I suppose you could try to tame them while they are hostile. It's possible, but difficult. Try for heavy armored and high melee for extra dodge chances, and then pray. So let's say you now have tamed all the insectoids. Which ones should you get? Spillipedes can do everything. Fight and haul, not a bad little bug. Difficult to get, but hey, a nice bragging rights reward. Mega spiders, meanwhile, are fast, mean fighters. We've all lost a colonist or two to them, and they make great attackers or haulers. Finally, the larva. Well, kinda hard to tame larva, given they are so fragile, they aren't very good on their own. But players of Rimworld who are in the know might be thinking, wait, isn't there one more insectoid? Oh yeah, but that's for a future tier. For now, larva will, with their little ranged attack that can be trained to be the focus fired, is fine here in D tier. C tier, always a decent choice for a colony if you got animal handlers, be it decent defenders, haulers, or farm animals. Starting off, birds. Like a lot of birds. Seriously, I didn't realize how much were in this game. So for C tier, we have sparrows, bluebirds, crows, vultures, peafowls, swans, herons, flamingos, quails, and of course, the turkey. So why are all of these birds in the same place? Well, because while they do provide eggs, it's always fertilized eggs, though between 1 to 3 days for intervals. Depending on the bird, vultures have 4-day intervals, but all of them have around 20 days to grow from an egg to an adult, so decent return from the egg layers. Should mention vultures and crows crows can be trained to attack, but like the macaw, not the most sturdy. Though vultures do have a bit of meat to them, maybe focus on using that meat for your colonists, not body blocking. Still, none of them are completely bad for early to mid-game egg layers, but once you get far better ones from the highest tier, maybe put them all to the knife and never look back. Finally, geese. They actually can lay eggs unfertilized and at a rate of 1 every 2 days, but sadly chickens are worth more value as 2 chickens can make the same amount of nutrition in their eggs in the same time as 1 goose, and that's on top of eating less than geese. Still, it deserves its C ranking, maybe even arguably low B tier if one is so inclined. Still, on farm animals, goats and bison. Bison are an easy to find animal that provides good wool and good amount of meat and leather to boot, but most importantly, it's a pack animal, meaning those shopping trips are even better. Though to be honest, there are better choices. It's basically a muffalo in terms of utility with slightly worse wool. They also cannot be ridden in a caravan, so they won't be improving speed. Great if you need them, but if you can upgrade, go for it. Goats, meanwhile, are the milkable little farm animal and sadly not always worth it. First off, you need to buy them from traders, making them more rare, and second, they provide 4 milk a day, or 0.2 nutrients a day, and eat 0.36 per day. Unless you got really good animal handlers who can up the amount of milk provided, you will constantly be losing out. Still, they do provide milk for the colony, which might be needed to raise babies or help out with the more luxurious meals, hence its spot here out in the C tier. There are also elk and caribou. Both are milkable farm animals. The fact that elk and caribou milk are a real thing is something I still can't cover. Either way, the benefit with them is that the amount of milk and leather you get from slaughtering them on top of the meat make them good knockoff cows. Now, if only we can get them to carry stuff. I mean, come on, caribou, you help Santa, help me out. Then there is the panda monkey, guinea pig, cat, and Yorkshire terrier. Care to guess what all of them have in common? If you said mammals and made of meat, well, yes, but actually no. It's that they can nuzzle. All can nuzzle colonists and be trained to comfort colonists to further give them joy. That's why they have their use here in C tier, because that's really all they can do. Well, I mean, monkeys and pandas can be trained to guard and attack, but maybe leave the therapy animals back at base. Just saying. Also, on the note for monkeys, why can't we normally train them to haul? Monkeys are intelligent enough to totally be haulers. Oh, and guinea pigs provide a decent fur whose value is 5 silver a unit, so keep that in mind. Wild boars are the cousins to pigs, and honestly, even after all these years, they are a decent meat animal. Easy to tame, easy to hunt, and easy to breed. A whole army. For those new to Rimworld, there was a time when these things could do it all. Haul, fight, and be perfect for any animal lord colony. Good times. Still, while their value has gone down in years, it's a solid C-tier animal for corpse disposal and meat production, though I am wondering what would make these boars not have a manhunter chance. Boars, IRL, aren't exactly cuddly. Yeah, maybe it's for the best. I don't think a lot of colonies could survive a single boar, let alone full pack of them. And now, with a heavy heart, I must put my beloved chinchilla at C tier. Their value for creating high-valued furs is certainly great. There are easier ways to make money, and to be honest, I don't want to butcher all my beloved chinchillas. Also serious about the fur, the value is 6.5 silver a unit versus Flake's 14 value. It's actually pretty decent when compared to each other. And now, the attack animals. Seals and sea lions, colossus toads, rhinos, megasloths, wargs, lynx, and tigers all end up here. They are on the high end of C tier as they are all pretty beefy war animals, but again, better choices. Seals and sea lions can both haul, but guess what? Seals one-up their cousins by being able to comfort you. Guess they must be circus seals. Colossus toads are a great early attack animal due to their ease of taming and fast breeding and maturing times. They will fall off later, but in the early game or for tribals, great support. Tigers are a powerful predator, and that's the problem. They have a wildness rating of 90 and a 50% chance to go manhunter on a failed tame. Taming one of them is a risky endeavor, great if you could get a maybe skip for an easier to manage panther, or the weaker lynx that is on this list. They are middle of the road damage-wise, but the ability to stun targets always helps. Rhinos are actually one of the fastest animals in the game. Makes sense given their habit of charging, however they aren't the best damager, more so they can't use that speed for hauling. One in animal posse is good, but fine if you don't get one. Now here is a gif of rhinos acting like doggos. Cause yeah, rhinos are legally blind, hence why they are aggressive in the dangerous wild. When it's safe, yeah, adorable. Wargs and megasloths highly aggressive, but usually worth it. Megasloth wool is the second best insulator for the cold, and given that you also get a powerful attacking animal that can haul, it's a good deal. The problem is the wildness at 97%. You need to really good tamers or an inspiration to tame this one. Plus, failure means a 30% chance it turns on them. This is why they are here. The risks to get might not be worth the benefit. Same with wargs with a wildness of 60% and a 40% chance of a manhunt on failure. It's a risky move for a powerful canine. Though its problems is the fact that it only eats meat. And I do mean meat has to be raw or a corpse for them to eat it. No kibble. For some colonies this isn't a problem. For others it might not be worth it. For me, oh, it's worth it. A vicious attacker with stunning capabilities make it a great companion for your combat pawns if you are willing to roll the dice on them. B tier. Great animals, some of the mainstays for any colony out on the rim, starting with our Urcine buddies, grizzlies, and polar bears. Tanky, angry, and able to haul, these big guys won't be hunting for honey. No, they'll be hunting for blood. Though on the subject of polar bear, given they live in regions with less prey, they are a lot more dangerous, so keep that in mind, or else you're gonna need to be fitted for a coffin. For felines, cougars, panthers, and scimitar cats fit the same class of speedy stunners. Plus, being haulers, they can pull double shifts of helping out before ripping reveled raiders' ribs really rapidly. Oh, and gorillas, they also make good haulers and fighters. Maybe not on the level of the felines, but they do bring a pretty good foraging ability to the colony. Plus, who wouldn't want Coco the gorilla in their colony? Get a celebrity. For canines, the Arctic and timber wolf, they really are good, but they are very wild, like 30% failed tame chance to go manhunter wild. They are a good hauler and attacker, but keep in mind how dangerous they can be if you roll the dice bad. Sheep are a decent wool maker. They don't eat as much as other wool producers, and technically their wool is better than cloth, but that's about it. It's a decent little profit animal, but it's our adorable one. Now, if only we could get them in electric mechanoids, dream of them at least. Just dream of some electric mechanoids. Now, elephants and mastodons, they are an interesting case. In terms of hauling in a caravan, they both carry around double the carry capacity of Muffalo. That's pretty darn good if you didn't know that. You can even ride them for the extra caravan speed, but given their size, you have to deal with feeding them, and boy do they eat a lot. I feel like elephants are a case-by-case type of animal. Their strengths can be so useful for defending and hauling, and even mastodons even provide their own wool to make them even slightly better value than elephants. But you have to keep in mind the food costs. For mid to late game colonies, I think it's possible to take care of them and really benefit from them, especially with their war trumpet ability that can reduce the speed and manipulation of opponents around it, highly beneficial. And now, last in B tier, the Thrumbos. In our last video, the Thrumbo was C rank, mostly due to the fact they can't caravan. The risk to tame them was too high and they eat a lot. However, their value has changed. They still are hard to tame and keep tame, but thanks to their ability to do a roar to mess with enemies is worth everything. Plus, now that we can go to a nearby tile to camp, just bring them to a new tile and harvest as much greens and wood you can to help feed them. The Thrumbo is a tank any Rimworld player has been through. I could take it. Moment before realizing you should respect them, and your raiders will learn that same thing if you have a Thrumbo or two in an animal squad. But the Alpha Thrumbo, okay? So a Thrumbo horn does 23 damage with a 34% armor piercing. That's good. Alpha Thrumbo, their horn is 34 with 51 AP. So yeah, taming these things are gonna require a minimum of 14 animal handling skill. I recommend hopping your colonists up to silo caps and hope for a taming inspiration, as they do have a 2% chance to trigger inspirations, with a 1% chance of catatonic breakdowns. Yeah, hope for the best on this one. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Alpha and normal Thrumbos can breed. It depends on who the mother is, so get a male Thrumbo and female Alpha Thrumbo, and you can keep breeding them. Do keep in mind that Alpha Thrumbos will take over 2 in-game years to fully mature, so long colonies only for the Thrumbo ranching experience. Oh, and by the way, the Alpha Thrumbo's roar can straight up scare enemies away. Oh yeah, that's going to be useful for the endgame. A tier. Don't need to explain what these animals are high quality choices for a colony. Starting off, cows. You know why they are here. Lots of beef, lots of milk, one of the queens of the barn. Shame they are trade only animals. Guess I'll have to settle on dromedaries and yaks since you can find them out in the wild. Both carry the same amount of weight in a caravan, that being 73.5, which is pretty darn nice. But yaks give a bit more milk than dromedaries, with the dromedaries actually being rideable. It's really personal personal preference and location, but either of these can be a great caravan and farm animal. Now, chickens and ducks are your egg layers. Chickens give 1 egg a day, fertilized or not, and take 12 days to fully mature from a chick. Ducks are also the same, but ducks do eat 20% more nutrients than a chicken. Still, though, you can actually find them out in the wild. If chickens aren't available in a colony, then go for ducks, and whatever you do, don't let them solve a mystery or rewrite history. Alpaca and buffalo are your common to find hauler/wool providing animals. Alpaca have 2 minimum animal handling skills, making them great practice animals, and in the early game, when you need easy to use caravan animals, alpaca are a great choice. Now, buffalo are classic. There was a time old-time players remember when they provided milk, wool, and could caravan with the best of us. Good times, yeah. Buffalo wool is always good, but know what's funny? Alpaca wool is a better insulator, more valuable than buffalo wool. So that early game hauler might be keeping your pawns nice and warm during this winter year. Huskies and Labrador Retrievers are some of the goodest boys and girls on the rim, being able to haul, fight, and comfort a pawn when they need it. The only reason they don't get S tier for being great all-around animals is the fact they are trade-only animals. At least wolves are out in the wild. Maybe I can breed the wolves into dogs in a single playthrough. Finally, in A tier, the Hive Queen. This colossal queen is a powerful force of nature. Like seriously, their head claw does 30 damage with an armor-piercing factor of 45%. She can and will ruin your day. However, if you have a taming inspiration, that might be your chance to have a powerful beast on your side. Though keep in mind, you better distract her or she will cut your tamer's limbs off. Heavy armor, a few friends to body block, maybe a quick save. So she's powerful, the Thrumbo was, and might be easier to tame all things considered. Why is she up here above Thrumbo? Pure utility. Her ability, Egg Lay, lets you lay eggs once every hour, and inside is a tamed larva. See where this is going? By taming the queen, you actually get an unlimited source of insect meat. Perfect for kibble, chem fuel feeding prisoners, or even your colonists if you are in a bunch of bug-eating weirdos. This is why she is A tier. High utility, high power, and let's be honest, a real bragging rights reward. But what could be better than this? Well, there are 3 animals I believe belong in S tier, and should always be obtained for colonies' benefits. For the final 3, it's the boomalopes, donkeys, and horses. Now, boomalopes make a whole lot of sense. They provide chem fuel, which, thanks to needing fuel for grav ships, make chem fuel even more important. Boomalopes have always been a mainstay of colonies, since chem fuel always has value for trade power and, of course, explosives. Meanwhile, horses and donkeys have their value in their caravanning capabilities, with Odyssey's emphasis on exploration. The horse's ability to provide more speed to the caravan is invaluable. Donkeys, while they can't carry as much nor carry riders, are here due to ease of breeding, and they are literally a anyone can tame type animal, no skill required. These 3, in my opinion, deserve their spot in S tier. Of course, if anyone would like to say my list is wrong, I'd just like to say you are free to do that. It's a tier list following how me and my team see animals in Rimworld, and things can change as the game evolves and updates. Plus, with all the mods, we all know that there are far more horrible things to unleash on your foes or use in your base. I'd like to thank all the Patreons that support us, make videos like this possible. We couldn't do it without you. I hope to see you in the next video.